Almost gang raped with a steel rod. Okay, so this happened a few years ago, when I was beginning 9th grade. Forgive me if it gets a bit too long. That's the nature of the narrative. Beware in advance. This is not one of those stories where something unexpected and creepy happens at the end, but its aftermath is still tragic beyond belief, and left me permanently changed. Just for the reader to get a better picture, I live in the capital city of a third world country, and malls and cineplexes had fairly recently become a fad among the well-to-do in the urban areas. A couple of girlfriends and I had gone out for a movie and dinner afterwards. The subway system had also recently finished construction and become immensely popular here, so I thought, what the heck, I can take the subway. The subway stop was pretty close to our house as well, so it was really convenient. As I messed around on my phone trying to pass the time, I could see a boy, no older than 18 or 19 years old, constantly stealing covert glances at me. In that moment, all my feminist angst went out the window, and I can honestly admit, I wished I hadn't worn a dress, thinking maybe he wouldn't stare if I had worn something more covering. Anyways, my stop arrived, and as one does at one stop, I got up and started to leave. This boy also got off at the same stop. Now in these types of stories, people often say they knew something was off or weird. I didn't. He wasn't anything other than the standard issue creep I was used to in the city. This boy then falls into step a bit behind me, but not too far either. No issue. I'm still thinking, no need to be paranoid. By now, though, it's about 10 p.m. at night, so I'm getting worried and uneasy. It doesn't help that the street is practically empty, flanked by large houses and broken street lamps that light up jack shit. I can hear him murmuring into his cell phone, so I'm thinking maybe he really doesn't care about me. Then after some time, I notice he isn't there anymore. But I don't want to take any chances, so I call up my brother to just come and get me, and we'll walk the short way home together. So, as I'm walking my way in, hoping my brother will catch up with me any second now, I see a shoe poking out of the alley. I just know it's that guy. Then I notice something that gives me chills, even now. He's standing next to 3 other guys, and they're all jacking off together right there on the street. I'm scared shitless because A, I was a sheltered kid in a country where sex education is what is called literally taboo beyond belief, and B, who does that? I turned around and started walking away fast, hoping they did not notice, but they did. They zip up their pants and sort of advance towards me, not exactly threatening, but definitely sneering at my trying to get away. Now, I'm quickening my pace, but I know that if I run, they'll end up running too with their predatory instincts, and eventually catch up with me. If I keep walking up ahead, it's a road that goes on for miles and miles. So, I'm walking fast, police number ready to dial, waiting for my brother to appear any second now, hoping and praying these guys will go away. I was wearing a dress that buttons down the front, and one of the guys comes straight up before I was able to run or dial the cops, and forcefully tears the first button off. A bit of my bra is now exposed. I know I'm going to be raped and murdered, and where the fuck is my brother, and just oh my god. One of the guys is holding an iron rod about 3.5 feet in length. In our native language, he says they are going to shove it up my cunt and then my ass, and the bun-ripping guy firmly holds my wrist. Just then I hear loud footsteps. My brother. Now I think the guys thought they could take him because he was just one guy, and sneered at me again when I called up to him, almost crying and desperate. But they didn't realize one important thing. My brother is a 6'4" pro tennis player who bench presses more than these guys' body weight put together. As he gets close, they freak out. The original guy snatches a necklace I was wearing straight off my neck, and they all run away. I am shaken and scared, but it's over now, so I go home, tell my parents, and we decide we're going to the police the next morning. The next morning, we go to the police. Magically, they show us a picture of each guy. I was really surprised because, A, police here have a terrible track record investigating assault-type cases, and B, how did they do it without an actual complaint? They then tell my parents, who later tell me that these guys went on to brutally rape a small child 5 kilometers away from my neighborhood. Chillingly, they'd taken my necklace and put it around the neck of the baby girl they left dead. But they were seen on tape by traffic cameras doing their heinous act and had been caught, and then admitted to also harassing a girl of my description in my neighborhood earlier in the evening, before progressing to their final act. So, I come from a really rich family, which is fairly well known in political and business circles in my city. This is kind of relevant in 2 ways. A, this is why these guys were indicted fairly fast, as my parents put a lot of pressure on the authorities, and B, I struggle with being angry at why wealth was such an important factor in these cases. Rape is rape, right? The final few things I want to say are these. Even coming from a very well-respected family, the policeman asked me why I was wearing a dress, implying that I was asking for it. Another appalling realization I had was, if I was not from my family, if I was not well-known or well-connected, if I was a normal girl out with my friends, would any police personnel investigate my claims? If I didn't call my brother, would I be alive? Hell, most girls my age don't even have cell phones here. They couldn't call anyone. Finally, was I the cause of that little 5-year-old's rape and murder? What if they did that to her because they lost access to me? She belonged to a very poor family. If my parents hadn't intervened, if I wasn't involved, would those men have walked free? If I didn't have a stigma-free access to expensive therapy, would I ever be mentally sound again? This whole incident left me afraid of my own city and my country. To this day, I have not worn a dress outside after 5 p.m. It left me with a deep skepticism for law enforcement. I still feel guilty for the little girl who never grew up to go to school or have a chance at life. And I still have concerns about how my family's wealth became such an important factor in this case. What about all the girls who can't afford all of my privileges? To end on a brighter note, I really have gone over anything that happened to an extent. I'm even leaving home to study in the USA at a great university this year. And I'm determined to not let this event determine what I do with my life in the future. Druggy uncle threatening to rape my mother in front of her children. My family is full of drug addicts and alcoholics, most of which I have not had contact with for a very, very long time. This is just one of the stories I have to share, which definitely freaked me out, and one I certainly have not forgotten. One of my uncles was seriously into ice. He would use all his money on it, and had been in and out of jail frequently. He would always come to my parents for money, and we often obliged until one day it got out of hand. I was 5 to 6 years old at the time this happened, so it was very frightening. My uncle had come over completely off his face and was demanding money from my parents. My dad yelled at my brother, mom, and I to hide in our room and shut the curtains. My dad had had enough of his shit and told him to fuck off. Next minute, he brings out a crowbar and starts threatening that if my dad didn't give him the money, he would severely hurt and rape my mother in front of my brother and I, forcing us to watch. Fair to say, my dad fucked him up pretty good, as he came back inside with blood on his hands. Didn't hear from said uncle for a very long time. Fucked up drug addict uncle, please, let's not meet. Rape is alright, as long as she's 18. This incident happened around 10 years ago, when I was 13 or 14 years old. It was unusually warm for my cold, cold country, and my best friend and I, little rebels that we were, would lie to our parents about the time school ends and sit around in the school grounds gossiping and smoking cigarettes. Since we were idiot teenagers, we thought it was very cool to wear lots of makeup and heels in order to appear older. That day, it was around 4 or 5 p.m., and we were sitting around as usual. Even though we were busy chatting, we noticed a strange man enter the school gate. He was tall, skinny, early or mid-20s and nerdy looking. The guy was carrying a single red rose, and we quietly made fun of him as he entered the building. We continued with our business until the man exited the main building, rose still in hand, and came over to us. He asked if we knew some girl, who he claimed was his girlfriend. We said no, we hadn't heard of her, which was strange in retrospect, because we made it our business to know everyone and everything in school. The man did not walk away. He sat down on the bench next to us and started asking more questions. What were we doing here alone so late? What did we do for fun? Were we 18 yet? We said yes, we were 18. Idiots. We started feeling less and less comfortable around this guy. He seemed a little off, unstable, like he could pounce at any second. He was especially fixated on my friend, which made sense because she was very tall, slim, and beautiful. So, after exchanging scared looks with her, we excused ourselves and left. While walking away from him, my friend noticed that he also got up and started following us, which scared us a lot. The feeling that is often described here, the feeling of imminent danger, flooded my body, and we decided to hide. Now, the best move would have been to either go into the main building where there was a security guard at the reception desk, or leave the grounds and walk onto a busy street. It would have been fine, but no. We went into an additional building. The building was a part of the original school building, and nothing there except a staircase about 4 floors high and 2 locked classrooms. As soon as we went in, we knew it was a mistake. We climbed a few steps and wanted to turn around and run, but we heard the door open and close. The man was inside. He was quiet. Surely, he didn't want to talk anymore. I was a little bit higher on the stairs, so I ran up, leaving my friend below. I was scared out of my mind and worried about my friend. I stopped for a second on top of the stairs to gather my thoughts. Then I heard sounds of a struggle and my friend's muffled scream. I panicked. The man was taller and heavier than me. We were in an isolated building with no one there, and I had nothing that could be used as a weapon. But I had to do something. That's when I partly blacked out. I remember screaming and running and hitting, and my friend's scared expression. The man ran away. We left the building, thinking at that moment he may be outside, waiting for us. But in the end, we found out he wasn't. We went into the main building, staying close to the security desk. My friend told me what happened. Apparently, I went crazy. I ran downstairs in my heels, swinging my heavy book bag over my head, screaming insults no one has ever heard before at him. I beat the man violently over the head and in the face with my bag. My friend said I had an angry, out-of-control, animalistic expression on my face. We recovered a bit and left home. We never called our parents or the police. No one ever knew about this story until recently. I'm not sure why we never reported the rapist bastard. Maybe we were afraid that it was our fault for hanging out so late, wearing the makeup, and smoking. If I had the sense I do now, I would report him to make sure he couldn't hurt anyone ever again. I would not feel guilty because some perv thought we were 18, so naturally, it was okay to rape us. So, creepy 20-something man who thinks it's okay to roam schoolyards scouting for potential assault targets. Screw you. I wish I had hit you harder.